Today we're talking about how to know when to sell silver and when not to, using one simple chart that has predicted nearly every major silver move for decades. Most people think silver decisions should be based on price. If silver goes up a lot, you sell. If it keeps going up, you hold. And if it drops, you panic. But that way of thinking is exactly why people sell too early, hold too long, or give gains back. Silver isn't meant to be judged by dollar price at all. There's a long-standing relationship that showed when silver was absurdly cheap before this rally ever started, and right now, it's sending a very different signal. In this video, I'll break down why silver exploded, how this chart works, how to manage an exit without selling at all, what happens if silver keeps going higher, and when it actually makes sense to buy again. To understand them, you need to take a step back, because silver wasn't the cause of this rally. It all started with what's happening to money. Right now, the United States is carrying over $38 trillion in national debt. That's about $113,002 for every single person in America. That number alone is hard to process, so let's ground it in reality for a second. The government brings in roughly $5 trillion a year in tax revenue. Sounds like a lot. It is. But it spends closer to $6 to $7 trillion every single year. That gap does not disappear. It gets borrowed. And the interest on that debt now runs at over $1 trillion per year. That money builds nothing. It funds nothing. It only pays for decisions already made. And this is where the trap forms, because people start asking, why don't they just cut spending? And on paper, that sounds logical. In reality, it's almost impossible. Social Security, Medicare, defense, interest payments, those aren't small line items you can just trim. They're the budget. Cut them aggressively, and you don't get stability. You get a recession, massive unemployment, lower tax revenue, which actually makes the debt problem worse. So the government is boxed in. They can't cut without causing damage. They can't raise taxes enough to fix this. And they can't let the system deflate. So they do the only thing left. They inflate. Not because they want to, because they have to. Inflation reduces the real value of debt. It makes yesterday's promises easier to repay with weaker dollars. Interest rates cannot stay high forever. New money keeps getting printed. Asset prices resist the declines people expect. This is a melt up. Cash loses ground, so money moves. Out of savings, out of bonds, into things that cannot be printed. Stocks, real estate, commodities, gold, and silver. Silver sits in a unique position. It functions as money and as an industrial input used in electronics, solar panels, and manufacturing. When inflation expectations rise and growth remains intact, silver doesn't just move, it accelerates. That's exactly what happened. This was not a speculative frenzy. It was capital responding to policy, slowly at first, then all at once. By the time silver crossed $50 in December, people finally started paying attention. At $80, nobody was laughing anymore. And that's when the emotional questions started showing up.
Did I miss it? Is this the top? Should I sell everything before it crashes? Those questions feel urgent, but they're also the wrong starting point. Because price alone doesn't tell you whether silver is cheap or expensive. That's where the chart comes in. Here's where most people go wrong. They look at the price of silver in dollars and ask, is this expensive? And that feels like the right question, but it isn't. Because the dollar itself is moving. It's being diluted. It's being stretched thinner every year. You need a stable reference point. That's where gold comes in. Gold has been money for thousands of years. Not because it's flashy, not because it's exciting, but it holds value across time. It can't be printed, so it can't be diluted. So instead of asking how much silver costs in dollars, a better question is this: how expensive is silver compared to gold? That's all the gold to silver ratio is, nothing complicated. It simply tells you how many ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold. Let's make it more simple. If gold is trading at $4,300 an ounce and silver is trading at $43 an ounce, then it takes 100 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. The ratio is 100. That number matters more than the dollar price ever could, because historically, silver doesn't drift randomly around gold. It stretches away and then it snaps back, over and over again. When the ratio is high, silver is cheap relative to gold. When the ratio is low, silver is expensive relative to gold. That's the whole concept. And if you zoom out over the last 30 years, something jumps out immediately. Most of the time, the gold to silver ratio lives between 60 and 80. That range is normal. That's equilibrium. Neither metal is screaming, buy me or sell me.
But every once in a while, something breaks. Fear spikes, liquidity dries up, investors rush into gold as safety and abandon silver. When that happens, the ratio explodes higher. 90, 100, even above 100. That's where you can profit, because those extremes never last. When the ratio moved above 100, silver was not just cheap, it was historically mispriced. Buying silver at those levels was not a gamble. The downside was limited, the upside was large, and then the snapback happened. Silver moved faster than gold, and the ratio compressed from above 100 toward 50.
That compression was the rally. This is the part people miss. Silver didn't rally because everyone suddenly loved silver. It rallied because the relationship between gold and silver corrected. That is why the chart matters. And that brings us to the most important question. If the chart showed when silver was cheap, can it also tell us how to manage an exit? Now here's the part that really matters. Before silver went vertical, the gold to silver ratio sat above 100. To put that into perspective, it means silver was priced as if it were almost irrelevant, as if it had no monetary value, as if demand would never return. And markets love doing this. They don't just misprice things slightly, they push them too far. When the ratio crossed above 100, silver wasn't just cheap, it was an outlier. But these conditions are short-lived. When the ratio reaches those levels, silver outperforms gold. And that's exactly what played out. Silver corrected the imbalance quickly. Prices moved from the low 30s to 50, then to 60, then toward 80, fast enough to make people uncomfortable. Here is something important. Most people bought silver because of the price, not because of the ratio. They noticed silver after it had already moved. That's human nature. We pay attention when something is already exciting. But by then, the risk profile had changed. Which brings us to today, because now the ratio isn't screaming cheap anymore. That doesn't mean silver is bad. It doesn't mean the rally is over tomorrow. It just means the setup is different. And this is where smart decisions matter. Because when you're sitting on big gains, your brain does something strange. It starts anchoring to the highest price you've seen. It starts imagining even higher numbers. And suddenly, selling anything feels like betrayal. But the market doesn't reward loyalty. It rewards discipline. That's why the real question isn't, is silver going to keep going up? The real question is, has the easy part already happened? And the ratio suggests that a large portion of it has. So what do you do with that information? You don't panic. You don't go all in one way or the other. You think in terms of probabilities and positioning. And that leads directly into the idea that most people get wrong. Because managing an exit doesn't mean leaving the game. It means changing how you play it.
So let's reset the framing. An exit strategy is not about calling the top. It's about reducing regret on both sides of the decision. Because the worst outcome isn't selling too early or holding too long. Here's the first thing that needs to be said clearly. Don't sell it all. That's the rule. Selling some of your silver does not mean you're bearish. It means you understand that risk changes as prices rise. When silver was in the low 30s and the ratio was over 100, the odds were stacked in your favor. The downside was limited. The upside was enormous. That's what made it such a clean setup. But after a near 3 times move, the situation is different. Volatility increases, so trimming a portion of the position makes sense. This is what people mean when they talk about rotation instead of liquidation. You're not running to cash and hoping for a crash. You're simply acknowledging that relative value has shifted. And this answers one of the most common questions people ask. What if silver keeps going up? It absolutely can, and that's okay, because you're still in the trade. The goal here isn't to squeeze out the last dollar. The goal is to protect what you've already gained while staying positioned for what comes next. And what comes next depends on how you buy and how you sell. Which brings us to keep buying. Let me show you what this actually looks like using a simple example. Forget theories, forget perfect timing. In the first scenario, you don't try to be smart. You simply invest $100 every month. Month 1, the price is $5. You buy 20 shares. Month 2, still $5, another 20 shares. Month 3, the price drops to $2. Now that same $100 buys 50 shares. Month 4, the price rises to $4. You buy 25 shares. Month 5, back to $5, another 20 shares. Over 5 months, you invested $500 and ended up with 135 shares.
Your average cost per share is $3.70. Now look at the second scenario. You go all in at once. $500 in month one at $5 a share. You get 100 shares. That's it. When the price drops to $2, you're already fully invested. You can't take advantage of it. Same money, same timeline. Very different result. That's what keep buying actually means. You're letting lower prices work in your favor when they show up. And the same logic applies when you're selling. You don't sell everything at once. You trim it into pieces. You smooth the outcome. That's how normal people win. And that leads directly to the next question. If you're trimming silver now, would you ever buy it again? Absolutely. And this is where people get it wrong. They assume selling means you're done, that you've changed your mind, that you've turned bearish. None of that is true. This isn't a belief system. It's not a religion. It's capital allocation. You buy silver when it's cheap relative to gold. You trim silver when it becomes expensive relative to gold. And if that relationship flips again, you do the opposite. If the gold to silver ratio expands back out, if fear returns, if liquidity tightens, if silver gets discarded again, that's not a problem. That's an opportunity. Because remember, silver doesn't stop being useful. It doesn't stop being money. What changes is how the market is pricing it. That's why this isn't about catching one perfect trade. It's about repeating a simple process whenever conditions line up.
This is also where the difference between paper silver and physical silver matters. Paper silver, ETFs, trading vehicles, that's what you sell first. It's liquid, it's easy to adjust, it's designed for allocation decisions. Physical silver is different. Physical silver is insurance. You don't sell insurance the moment it does its job. You keep it for the reason you bought it in the first place. Protection, optionality, a hedge against things breaking faster than expected. That doesn't mean you never sell physical silver. It just means it's the last thing to go, not the first. And this layered approach, paper first, physical last, gives you flexibility without leaving you exposed. And it ties back to the bigger picture. We're still in a world where debt keeps rising, where deficits are normalized, where interest payments alone are eating a massive portion of government revenue, and where the easiest political choice is always inflation. That environment favors real assets. It doesn't mean straight lines up. It doesn't mean no volatility. But it does mean the long-term pressure is still there. So, trimming silver here isn't a rejection of that thesis. It's a refinement of it. And here is the key thing most people miss. This chart does more than explain the past. It helps you anticipate the next move. And that brings us to the final thought, the one that matters more than any price target. This entire thing really comes down to one thing: discipline. Silver did what it was supposed to do. It protected purchasing power. It outperformed when it was cheap. And now it's telling us to be a little more careful. Because the market doesn't reward drama. It rewards people who stay calm when others get emotional. This chart has predicted silver's biggest moves before, and it's doing it again. All you have to do is listen.